Strasbourg, July 1518. The streets were filled with heat, the kind that seemed to press down on people's shoulders and drive tempers to their edge. Life was already difficult. Famine lingered, disease stalked the poor, and the people were burdened with poverty and political unrest. But none of them could have predicted the horror or madness that was about to seize their city. It began quietly with a single woman. Her name was Frau Trophäa. One summer morning, she stepped into the street and began to dance. There was no music, no festival, no celebration, just the sound of her bare feet pounding against the cobblestones. At first, neighbors watched with confusion. Perhaps she was mocking someone, perhaps she was drunk. But as hours passed, it became clear that this was no ordinary dancing. Frau Trophäa moved with wild, jerking motions, unable to stop. She twirled and convulsed until her face was pale with exhaustion. Yet still, she danced. She danced through the day. She danced through the night. When she finally collapsed, drenched in sweat, gasping for air, her body twitched and shook as though compelled by an invisible force. And when she regained her strength, she rose again and continued dancing. By the end of the week, dozens of others had joined her. Men, women, even children filled the streets, their bodies jerking and swaying, their arms flailing, their feet bleeding. Some collapsed from sheer exhaustion, only to rise again as if possessed. The dancing spread like a plague. Within a month, hundreds were caught in its grip. The people of Strasbourg were horrified. This was no festival. This was no joy. This was suffering. Witnesses reported that many dancers screamed in pain as their feet tore open. Their faces twisted in anguish, yet their bodies moved against their will. Some laughed uncontrollably, others wept, but all were unable to stop. And then came the deaths. Some of the dancers collapsed and never rose again, dying from heart attacks, strokes, or sheer exhaustion. They had literally danced themselves to death. Panic swept the city. What was happening? The clergy declared it a curse from God, punishment for sins, or a test of faith. Doctors, bound by the limited knowledge of the time, believed the cause was hot blood, an imbalance in the humors of the body. Their solution? They encouraged the dancers to keep going, hoping they would dance it out. Musicians were even brought in. Platforms were erected in the city center. The dancing plague became a grim spectacle, with crowds gathering to watch the cursed victims writhe and spin. But instead of curing them, the music only made it worse. More and more people were pulled into the frenzy. By August, the plague reached its peak. Hundreds danced in the sweltering heat, collapsing, rising, and collapsing again. The city was paralyzed with fear. Families begged for help. Authorities, desperate for answers, tried to intervene. They banned public music, shut down dance halls, and even forbade weddings. Eventually, the afflicted were gathered and taken to a shrine dedicated to Saint Vitus, the patron saint of dancers and epileptics. There, priests prayed over them, and slowly, almost as mysteriously as it had begun, the plague faded. The dancers stopped, but not all survived. Dozens, perhaps hundreds, were dead. The dancing plague of 1518 entered history as one of the strangest, darkest medical mysteries ever recorded. But what truly happened? Historians and scientists have debated for centuries. One theory suggests mass hysteria, a psychological phenomenon where groups of people experience the same uncontrollable behavior due to stress, fear, or trauma. The people of Strasbourg were living through famine, disease, and despair, and their minds may have broken under the weight. The dancing, then, was not joy, but madness.
Another theory points to ergot poisoning, a toxic mold that grows on rye. This same mold can cause hallucinations, convulsions, and frenzied movements. Some have suggested that an outbreak of ergot led to the uncontrollable dancing, much like the hallucinations linked to the Salem witch trials a century later. But neither theory explains everything. Why did the dancing last for weeks? Why did it spread so rapidly? And why, above all, did so many people die from it? The dancing plague of 1518 remains an unsettling reminder of how little we sometimes understand about the human body and mind. Was it madness, poison, or something else entirely? A curse, a possession, a darkness that can grip entire communities? What we know is this. For one terrible summer, hundreds of people were trapped in their own bodies, forced to dance until their muscles tore, their bones broke, and their hearts gave out. Their cries echoed through the streets of Strasbourg. Their blood stained the cobblestones, and history would never forget the time when dancing itself became a plague. So the next time you hear music that makes your feet tap, remember, there was once a time when dancing wasn't joy, but death. Subscribe to Legends of the Dark for more stories like this and more.